Stan Albeck Show, brought to you by Shearson Lehman Brothers and E.F. Hutton, joining together to serve the serious investor. And by Pepsi-Cola, the choice of a new generation.
If Daytona is speed, if Las Vegas is dice, if Dallas is oil, then the Midwest, especially at this time of the year, is basketball. And this new year brings a new show, not only for the basketball connoisseur, but for the casual fan as well. We welcome you to the Stan Albeck Show, featuring one of America's top coaches and expert, Stan Albeck, formerly NBA coach and currently boss of the nationally ranked Bradley Braves. Each week we'll have highlights, headlines, we'll have the goofs and the greats. We'll discuss everything from dunks to drugs, from high school to pros, and much, much more. Stan, great to have you. Happy New Year.
Well, thanks very much, Frank. Bradley and the basketball team is off to a great start, and we hope that 88 is even better.
It's been great having you in the Bradley program, and you have a philosophy of basketball. Basketball is, in part, philosophy. What is Stan Albeck basketball all about?
Well, I think it's up-tempo and upbeat, Frank, number one, and I think also the fact that we really try to utilize the talents of the players. If we have speed and quickness, we're going to rely on that, and I think that's reflected in this year's team. And I think also probably the number one thing that we try to do is concentrate on breaking off of makes or misses or interceptions and making our opponents constantly aware that they have to get back.
If you emphasize offense so much, can your team still play good defense?
We're asked that all the time, Frank, and I think once again it's a reflection that we led the Valley in almost every defensive category, like field goal percentage, which I think is really the most important area. The other thing is blocks and steals and interceptions, and we were ranked either first or second in all of those categories the past year.
Mm-hmm. So Bradley basketball then is power and speed and quickness and some other things.
Well, I don't know if it's power, Frank. I would like to think that we have some, but once again, it's reflected really in the transition game, and it's one that I've adopted, and it's been a long-time philosophy, as I said. But I think it's the way to play because we're in the entertainment business and we're charging very good prices now at college games. And I think we have to
play that way, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think there's any question about it. And although I will say this, coming back from the pros to college, I found that it's more difficult to teach a team to play quick and fast break than it is to slow down.
Interesting. Why don't we take a look at this kind of basketball? It's got speed, it's got quickness, the transition. Let's take a look at Stan Albeck basketball in action. We'll be back with a look at one of the great players in America. Next, stay with us.
Shearson Lehman Brothers, municipal bonds, where we stand. While other major Wall Street firms have abandoned the municipal bond market, Shearson Lehman Brothers remains strongly committed to it. Because now, more than ever, municipal bonds offer outstanding value for investors seeking safety and tax-free income. Talk with us. Shearson Lehman Brothers, minds over money.
there for anyone to break. But the difference is the time and care we take. You're the ones who really matter as we share the good we got right. You know what matters. It's the color that flies. It's the dream that will die. It's the heart and the soul behind the
Hersey Hawkins is the nation's leading scorer in college basketball, averaging more than 40 points a game in a fantasy season. Stan, is Hersey the ultimate product of Stan Albeck basketball?
Well, I don't know if he's the ultimate, but I certainly think, Frank, that he's going to be a great pro in the NBA, and he has great leaping ability. He runs the floor extremely well. He does a great job reading defenses and comes off of screens that are set by unselfish teammates to really set him up for his ability to score. But this is a great shot here where he takes off at the dotted line and gets all the way to the basket on a dunk. And I think, that's a typical Hersey Hawkins play.
Oh, absolutely. And joining us, thanks, Hersey. We're delighted to have you with us today. Tell me, Hersey, the first 2 years of college basketball, a different coach, Dick Versace, now 2 years with Stan Albeck. What's the difference in style and coaches the last couple of years?
Running basically is the biggest difference. I think it's basically a whole different atmosphere when Coach Versace was here. We didn't run that much, and we were real structured, and the team basically had to do certain things. But now it's we have a lot of freedom. We're able to create a little more out on the floor than we were able to do a couple of years ago, and I think it has changed for the better, definitely. I think any player would love to play in the style of basketball that we play.
Do you think that this style of basketball has improved your chances to play in the NBA?
Oh, yes, definitely. Being able to handle the ball a little more than I did the first couple of years. I don't have to, when I get the ball, I don't necessarily have to throw it to Anthony, whereas when Coach Versace said we had to get the ball to the point guard and to Jim Les, whereas now I'm able to take it up a little more down the court. And, with the pointers that Coach Albeck has showed me and Coach Mahone, it's helped me a great deal.
Okay, we've got both of you here, and we've talked about the Player of the Week, all the awards, leading scorer in the nation. Let me each have you say, what in the world is Hersey Hawkins' weakness, Coach?
He shoots too much. No, not really, Frank, because he's only averaging 23 shots a game, and I think there's really a misnomer. Anytime that you lead the country in scoring, everybody classifies you as a gunner, and he's certainly one of the most unselfish players that I've ever been around, and we have to constantly implore him to shoot more.
Yeah. Hersey, what is your weakness? What do you think your weakness is?
Not shooting enough.
How about that? All right, what about ball handling? If you're going to go to the NBA, where are you going to have to play? Off guard, guard, point, what?
Yeah, I think basically now I have to play off guard. Maybe in a couple of years, maybe when I'm comfortable enough to handle the ball, I don't think I'm to the point where I'm going to get it took from me or anything, but it's the point of setting up on offense and running a team where I have my problems. And, in a couple of years, I think I'll be pretty comfortable and I'll be able to do that.
A famous Bradley record, Chet Walker's 50 points down to you in the Cal Irvine game earlier. Stan, some of the fans are criticizing you because you took him out and left him out about 10 minutes the first half. What happened?
Well, I know. I had a huge fan call me up the next day and said, listen, if you compute his stats, he would have gotten 92 against Irvine if you had left him in. But he had foul problems, and at that particular point in time had 3, and we didn't want him to pick up a 4th one because we were still in a basketball game. But no one was more happier than the team, I think, and certainly the coaching staff to see him get that record. And, hey, he's still got some games left.
You bet. They were going up and down the court in that game, Hersey. Before the game started, or the halftime, did any of your teammates talk about going for that record of 50?
Well, we had talked about it probably the day before the game because we knew that California Irvine was the kind of team who liked to get the ball up and down the court. We knew a lot of points would be scored and probably some records would be broken. So I sort of came in with the intentions that I was going to shoot the ball a little more than I usually do.
What did you feel like when you were sitting out with 3 fouls in the first half?
I don't know. I've never sat out for 10 minutes.
How about you?
Well, I think Frank, he was so grooved and in such a great niche early in that game. It was really too bad that he did have to come out, but I didn't want to lose control of the game, and I felt that, if we had him for the second half, he was certainly going to be there if we needed him. And the record really was secondary to the win, but since he got as close as he did and did get it. I've always been a player's coach, and any time that they're approaching a record, I certainly will give them every opportunity, and I was happy to do that for him.
And it came out just right because Hersey got 51, Bradley got 139, and a 139-119 win over Cal Irvine. Hersey, thanks for being with us tonight. We'll check you along the way. We'll review the best players Stan Albeck has ever coached, and that includes the Skywalker, who's the biggest name in the game, and the best of the best. Next.
It seems this is the first store to have the new lemon lime slice with the great new taste.
How was it? Fantastic!
Listen, people, the new slice has more lemon lime taste than 7-Up and Sprite. We've got the juice. Who gets the dance? The new lemon lime slice. It's got a great new taste.
Think you'll have enough slice, Max? Maybe. Maybe not. Financial consultant. One who is expert at listening, getting to know a client's needs and concerns. One who advises and educates, tailoring financial services to specific requests and goals. One who then, and only then, executes a client's decision. One who is available at Shearson Lehman Brothers. The serious investor and Shearson Lehman Brothers. Minds over money.
There's a greatness of the heart, reaching higher, 'cause you wanna do your part. Give your best, that's all that matters, as you're climbing up that ladder. We know what matters. 5 seconds. Press onward, 'cause that's one day you'll break through. You're a winner if it's trying all you do. Give your best, that's all that matters, as you're climbing up that ladder. We know what matters.
Top Gun. Stan Albeck has coached a ton of great players, including the top scorer in the NBA. When one young kid was asked, he asked a coach, is Michael Jordan number 23? Coach replied, son, if you got time to read the number, it ain't Michael. And Michael's a cinch to make your best I've ever coached team, but who are some of the other people that have made that best all-time coach team?
Frank, I think basically, you have to consider George Gervin, because I had him for 3 years at San Antonio. He led the NBA in scoring 2 of those years, and the Iceman was just unbelievably cool. He could hurt you in so many different ways with hooks and spins and certainly all types of shots. Michael Jordan, on the other hand, when you think of him, you think of him flying through the air and the game being played above the rim, certainly with him. And the fact that he could hang and get bumped and knocked and still make the basket and go to the line and make the free throw. And interestingly enough, both of those guards shoot in the 80s as far as free throws are concerned.
Yeah, and Jordan wasn't that great a scorer in college basketball. Then all of a sudden, the explosion. What's that say about Michelangelo and Dean Smith or his style?
Well, let me tell you something. Sam Perkins, the number 1 pick, was on that team, and James Worthy and Michael Jordan. Does that say something about the talent that they had at North Carolina?
Wow.
But I think up front, you'd have to go with Buck Williams. He had the greatest lateral quickness for a rebounder that I've ever seen in all of my years in basketball. And I think, he led the NBA in rebounding, or was second. And I think for 5 consecutive years had 1,000 points and 1,000 rebounds. And that's a great, great mark in the NBA. Dan Issel at Denver, I had, when I was with Kentucky in the old ABA, and not a finer guy ever lived. He's now very successful as a horse breeder down in Kentucky. And, of course, the all-time center is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And interestingly enough, the big guy never shot a skyhook, or rarely shot it in practice, Frank. It's his most patented shot, and yet he had such great confidence in it that he could shoot it out to maybe even 15 or 17 feet, and won a game in Portland with one from about 17.
What does Kareem Abdul-Jabbar on your team mean to us, Coach?
Oh, I think what it means, and along with the magic right now, is the fact that when you go on the road in the NBA, they and Boston never dream of losing. You know that it's money in the bank. Gervin was that way. Michael Jordan was that way. Kareem was that way. You knew that they were going to hit their average. And interestingly enough, Kareem, in all of the NBA playoffs, historically, upgraded his playoff stats over his regular season stats, and I think that's the sign of a great pro.
And he can still do it after all these years.
Well, I don't know. He's 40, but he could... as far as the guy taking the last shot, and the ball game is on the line, let me tell you something. Every coach just shuddered when that happened.
Some guys get a lot of credit, a lot of ink, like the people we just named, but some just make teams win, and coaches call them gamers or underrated people. Now, around the NBA, here are some of the people you think are the most underrated.
Well, interestingly enough, Maurice Cheeks, I think, outside of Magic, is probably the best point guard in the entire NBA, and of course he's...
Interesting statement.
Yes, West Texas, I think, he came from, and interestingly enough, Missouri Valley Conference player, along with Paul Pressey from Tulsa, and he's a 6'5" swing man, and they really get a lot of mileage out of Pressey. And I think on top of that, you have the type of person who gives them leadership. He can come back and is the point press guy. He takes Larry Bird defensively and really does a great job with him. And those are really tough people when it comes to playing up there, and they take the best offensive player every night.
Michael Cooper was on that list too. Not many centers there. Let's go down the list a little bit.
Well, Rodney McRae is a small forward with the Rockets, and I think as you go on down, you go Joe Dumars from the Pistons, and Pat Lever, interestingly enough, has more triple-doubles than anybody in the NBA. Phil Hubbard is really an unsung hero for the Cavaliers. Charles Oakley, whom I head coached at the Bulls, is now probably the dominant rebounder in the entire NBA, and Kevin Willis from Michigan State is going to have a long future in the NBA.
Okay, you just talked about Oakley and Willis, and a quick note on either one of them. Why is Oakley such a great rebounder? He's not very tall.
Well, he has a knack of knowing where the ball is going, and Frank, interestingly enough, in shooting drills, he will shoot and rebound a player shot each day differently, and he will watch and observe where that ball rebounds when it misses, and I think that gives him an advantage in a game.
To wrap up this segment, one thing I've got to talk to you about, Michael Jordan, we mentioned, great player. What kind of practice player is he?
Michael Jordan is probably the most dedicated practice player you've ever seen. He keeps score, interestingly enough, and he's very well aware of points, and he works just as hard in practice as he does on the floor.
Lots of people would like to ask you a question. Not all of them get the chance, but in a moment we'll come back with some fans, and they'll ask Stan. Stay with us.
Shearson Lehman Brothers, municipal bonds, where we stand. While other major Wall Street firms have abandoned the municipal bond market, Shearson Lehman Brothers remains strongly committed to it. Because now, more than ever, municipal bonds offer outstanding value for investors seeking safety and tax-free income. Talk with us. Shearson Lehman Brothers, minds over money.
Hi, I just moved in next door. Could I borrow a Diet Pepsi?
Sure.
Be right with you.
When you go all out for taste, the taste to go out for is Diet Pepsi.
You okay in there?
Here's your Diet Pepsi.
Thanks. I hope it wasn't too much trouble.
No trouble at all. Diet Pepsi, the choice of a new generation.
I'm Mike Singletary. You may not recognize me without my Chicago Bears uniform, but I want to talk to you about something that's more important to me than football or winning the Super Bowl. That's my daughter. You see, I want her to grow up healthy and able to handle all the fumbles life may hand her along the way. So one of the most important things I'll teach her about is alcohol and other drugs. It won't be a one-time talk. I'll be letting her know how I feel about drinking and drugs as she's growing up. You see, kids begin to feel pressure to use drugs as early as 4th grade. That means parents have to help them know what to do before they're 9 years old. If you need ideas, write to the National PTA for a free brochure called Young Children and Drugs. Send a stamped self-addressed envelope to Young Children and Drugs, National PTA, 700 North Rush Street, Chicago, Illinois, 60611. Help your children grow up to be the best they can be. Help them stay drug and alcohol free.
Each week on this show, we'll present fans the chance to ask Stan whatever they'd like, so be ready. We took our cameras to the arena and around, and here's the first question for Coach Stan Albeck.
My name's Dan Ropp, and I'm from Peoria, Illinois, and I'd like to know why California Irvine dropped 3 men back on their free throw attempts when Bradley shot the ball from the line.
Well, Dan, I think the biggest situation was they wanted to get back defensively as far as the Braves were concerned, because we advance the ball just as quickly as they do, and in fact I thought throughout the course of the game they probably got the ball down the floor better than we did, and they did that a year ago when they beat us at Irvine.
You know, one fan asked me to ask you, because you coached in the NBA so long, will you not play a zone as a college coach?
Well, I think we've used a zone. I don't particularly like it, Frank, from the standpoint that we're a better transition team and can run better out of a man-for-man defense than we do a zone.
Well, of course, most of the pro teams play a zone anyway, only it's illegal, right?
Well, I guess.
You guess. All right, we'll let that alone. Let's see if we can find another fan with a question for Stan Albeck.
My name is Bill Turner. I'm from Peoria, and I'd like to ask Stan how his high school recruiting is going and how his area recruiting is going as far as Lynn Collins and other Peoria area high school players.
Well, Bill, we're certainly recruiting Lynn Collins, and I think right now we're hoping that he gets his grades in order, and our general recruiting has gone extremely well. We're back in the scene as far as some of the players that we thought we were out of earlier, or they had indicated to us that they were not interested at Bradley. All of a sudden we've had a dirge of those people come back to us, and we're currently out watching and observing and evaluating their talent, and I think we'll have a very successful recruiting year.
Coach Bradley is located, of course, in the heartland of Illinois and traditionally has drawn Illinois players. There's some great programs around this state. Peoria Manual, Peoria Central, Bloomington just in the area, then the great Chicago schools and down south. But the teams that you've recruited from have been so far out of state and out of the area. What's happening?
Well, I think we maybe underestimated the visibility that I had as an NBA coach, and as we approach people from Oklahoma or Texas, we got tremendous responses, and then investigating those particular players, we found out that maybe they were overlooked, and we signed 4 very early, and I think they're very solid players and certainly going to help the program.
Who's your stick-out recruit right now in your mind, if you could have to guess this early?
Oh, I think, we'd certainly take Collins if we had an opportunity and he had his grades in order, because I think he's going to be a great point guard.
Yeah, he's got the quickness and speed. Let's see if we've got another fan with a question for Stan Albeck.
My name is Kent Shaw. I'm from East Peoria. And I'd like to ask Stan Albeck why, when Hershey Hawkins missed the free throw at the Memphis State game, why Memphis State was allowed to go down court, and why Bradley just didn't foul him and take their chances with a 1-on-1 or 2 free throws.
Well, Ken, I think that's very easy. If I had my druthers and 24 hours to sleep on it, I certainly would have had Hershey Hawkins make that free throw, because it never entered our mind that he would miss it. And I think at that particular time of the season, he had nailed down something like 93 or 94%, and we were going with the percentages.
Coach, what can you do, free throws at the end of the game? Seems like every game comes down to the end of the game, we've got a foul shooting contest. Is there something we can do with the rules about that?
Well, I don't know, Frank. I think, there's a lot more fouling and parade to the free throw line in colleges than we really need. College games are so long. I think if you take a look at the time that expires, you're talking about 2.5 hours and sometimes maybe 2 hours and 40 minutes, and that's way too long for a 40-minute game.
If you could change any of the college rules and you had that commissioner rule, what would you change to college basketball rule-wise?
Well, I think I'd do two. I'd adopt two NBA rules. Number one, stop the clock in the last 2 minutes of the first half and certainly the game, because a perfect example of that was the Georgetown game in Ohio State a year ago. But other than that, I think it would probably be advancing the ball to mid-court on a timeout.
And now we're out of time, so that's a wrap for this show. Join us again next week when we'll have the hot players, the hot teams, and the hot seat. We'll have topics from blockbusters to bloopers, from the three-point shooters to the shot rejectors, from the very funny to the very controversial. So, for our guest, Hersey Hawkins, for Coach Stan Albeck, for our sponsors, Shearson Lehman Brothers and Pepsi Cola, this is Frank Bissoni. Thanks for watching. Have a great week.
Toyota quality. It's a tradition that keeps growing stronger year after year. Number one in its class for customer satisfaction, the Toyota Tercel. The most trouble-free car sold in America. The Toyota Cressida. The best-selling 4x4 compact truck. Toyota. The number one compact truck sold in towing capacity and payload. Toyota. And they're all sold at a first-class dealership. Peoria Toyota Volvo. Who could ask for anything more?
Good showplace in Kiwani is furniture, but it's more, much more. Do you see me? Do you hear me? Well, then you're in our free delivery area. Choose your favorite sofa, chair, bedroom or dining room furniture, and have it delivered and set up absolutely free by our careful, courteous delivery people. So bring the whole family for a day of fun at Goods, America's furniture showplace.
Donahue, weekdays at 9 on WEEK. The Stan Albeck Show, brought to you by Shearson Lehman Brothers and E.F. Hutton, joining together to serve the serious investor. And by Pepsi Cola, the choice of a new generation.
Hi, and welcome to the Stan Albeck Show. I'm Frank Bissoni, and we're delighted to have you with us. One coach told me during the state tournament in Champaign-Urbana, in Illinois, high school basketball is not a game. It's a way of life. Holiday tournaments often preview sectional and state championships, and this year was no different. Central Illinois always has great teams and programs from number 1 ranked Peoria Manual to number 13 Peoria Central, from Bloomington to Lincoln, and more. Stan, everyone in college hoops comes in here in Illinois, and they want to recruit the big-name players and the programs are good.
Well, they really are, Frank, and I think one of the oldest in the entire country is at Pontiac, Illinois, and they started a 16-team tournament, about 50 years ago, and some of the greatest collegiate stars in America have gone through that tournament, and I think the great thing, it's expanded throughout the course of the state, and it gives an opportunity for a lot of players to showcase themselves.
There have been a lot of great stars across college basketball, across pro basketball. It started as high school talent in Illinois, and we had a lot of great tournaments around the holidays this year that feature some of those players and some of those teams that are traditionally great.
Well, I don't think there's any question about that. There have been tournament play throughout the course of the state. There were a lot of surprises. A lot of heavy favorites didn't win those respective tournaments that they were picked to win.
You bet. We've got some tournament action for you to look at because we've got some of the great teams in high school basketball, even of the country. USA Today says Peoria Manual is number 10. This is the Peoria Central Lions. They look tough in the 23rd annual Pekin tournament. In the first round, they beat the Morton Potters 73-62. Then in the second round, they beat the Freeport Pretzels. And here's junior Mike Hughes with a 3. Senior Jack Forsyne was also intimidating in this tournament. He had 2 jams in the first half and one on an alley-oop from Mike Hughes. So the Peoria Central Lions are off and rolling in this tournament. The second one here just beats the halftime buzzer, and Central goes on to beat Freeport on this jam. It's 77-40. They really are playing. In the third round, Central met the Moline Maroons, and there's the Maroon bench. Mike Hughes, good-looking junior, makes another tough jump shot from outside. Moline's got a player. He's a center. He's senior A.C. Earl, and he's 6 feet 11 inches tall. He was very, very heavily recruited, and here in a second you'll see why. This is Earl in the paint doing his thing. Lions, coached by Chuck Bisher. They have a fine junior guard, Chris Reynolds, and he makes a drive to the basket. Look at his move here into the lane, gets it off the glass, collects the foul. Lions beat Maroon 61-55. In the championship game, Central played St. Francis de Sales. Pioneers start strong with a layup by John Simmons, and then the Lions create a turnover, and Jack Forsyne slams in yet another dunk shot, and you'd never know this guy's not 6'8" or 9", and the way he can play. Here comes that one. Lions led by 12 at the half, and DeSales came back in the second half. Rod Amazon with an amazing shot that just beats the third quarter buzzer right there. Central Sean Parker comes back, hits a jumper, but DeSales, there's the Parker jumper. Now watch DeSales put it into overtime and send the Lions home with a second place trophy. The tournament MVP, Eric Anderson, comes through for DeSales, and he's a rim-hanging slam dunker at times, and they come from behind to win the Pekin Holiday Tournament. And Central played without their center, Ray Taylor, in the tournament. But it goes to show you, a guy 6'7" doesn't play. That's Central. How about Manual? What's that going to be like? Central and Manual in this area.
Let me tell you, Frank, that's just going to be a dogfight, and I think Central has closed the gap, although Manual really has dominated that series, but they've always been entertaining basketball games, and I think, everyone is looking for an upset. But I want to tell you, Peoria Manual is really some type of high school team.
They really are. And they played at Pontiac, and that was one of the tournaments you referred to. Some of your coaches went around to these other tournaments. We've got some winners to show the fans of some of the other tournaments in high school. Look at here.
Well, down at Centralia, Ray Thompson was the big star and the most valuable player there, and Argo just simply dominated that tournament. I think, Frank, as far as wins are concerned, the average winning margin was something like 25 points for Argo. At Collinsville, Lincoln really pulled an upset, beating East St. Louis there in the finals. At Kankakee, Leo out of Chicago was the winner. And going on down the Mayor's Tournament, Anthony Manuel's old school pulled a surprise there and came through with flying colors.
Those are some more at Pekin. St. Francis de Sales with Eric Anderson, as we mentioned, was the winner there. At Pontiac, there's #1 Peoria Manual in the state.
I think it's really reflected again, Frank, in the number of tournaments. If we can have the role of all of the next particular team. At Princeville, Dunlap was the winner, and going on down that at Proviso West, St. Joe has a fine basketball team out of the suburbs there in Chicago. And at Rich Central came through. They went into that particular tournament 7-7 and came out winning. At Rockford, it was Rock Island. And then going on down the list, I guess that's the end of it, okay?
Rock Island with Duncan, and they've got another good program there.
No, they've always had good basketball, and Duncan Reed is a fine coach and sent a very good player to Purdue this year.
One of your favorite subjects is coming up next is on this show, so we're going to have people stand by because it's going to be the little man in basketball.
Oh, it's a great series, and we've got a great guest.
Coming up next. Stay with us.
Shearson Lehman Brothers, municipal bonds, where we stand. While other major Wall Street firms have abandoned the municipal bond market, Shearson Lehman Brothers remains strongly committed to it. Because now, more than ever, municipal bonds offer outstanding value for investors seeking safety and tax-free income. Talk with us. Shearson Lehman Brothers, minds over money.
There's a greatness of the heart. Reach it higher, 'cause you wanna do your part. Give your best, that's all that matters. As you're climbing up that ladder, we know what matters. Press onward, 'cause one day you'll break through. You're a winner if you're trying all you do. Give your best, that's all that matters. As we're climbing up that ladder, we know what matters.
One basketball coach had this sign placed on his outer office door. This door is 6 feet 4 inches high. If you can pass through it without ducking, don't. So basketball, they say, is the sport of the big man, but in the land of the giants, in recent years, the little man has again emerged and had a big impact on the game. Stan, the little man in basketball, particularly now college and pro basketball, how important?
Oh, extremely important, Frank. I think all you have to do is look at the great teams, and most of them have great point guards, and I think it's reflected once again. I liken it to a key to a door. They absolutely open up every avenue into that house, and I think for us at Bradley, we have a great player, and I think all you have to do is look at the pros and look at Bowl at 7'7" and Muggsy Bogues at 5'4", and that's just a contrast that you can't believe. And yet you watch this guy, he's so tremendously quick. You see him looking around down the floor, there's no one coming, and he absolutely knows enough to stop and pop for 2 points. Here you see him out-racing other big people, comes in and sets the big guy up underneath for a nice layup. And little men generate this type of enthusiasm, and they're certainly the underdog. Here is Spud Webb at the slam dunk contest. And Spud at 5'6" was a Dallas product, and I happened to be there for that, and he puts the ball on the floor, can go up and grab it one-handed and dunk, and it's just artistic that anybody that size would have such incredible leaping ability as Spud Webb, and he just won the hearts of everybody. And incidentally, the guy he beat was Dominic Wilkins, who was the previous and a teammate. Here we got Jimmy Les from Bradley, and a nice bounce pass, and it always seems that the little man can make the right pass at the right time. Here's a nice alley-oop to Hersey, and here he comes again with a feed. And the thing about little men is they give the basketball to the people when they can do something with it, whether it be put it on the floor or whether it be able to shoot it. And here is a great clutch play, Jimmy coming off a pick at Illinois State and going all the way for a left-hand layup that was the winning shot for the Braves over there at Illinois State. And I think that you can see the elation that his teammates have for him. And here's our current assist leader in the entire country, and that's Anthony Manuel from Crane. And he too has the ability to shred defenses. He has the outside shot that makes people play him honest. And here's 3 in a row for him in a big game up in Chicago against Loyola. And you can see the penetration, and they have the ability to dish off or get all the way to the basket, and that's what makes those people so tough.
Very good. That's outstanding and fun footage. And with us is the nation's assist leader, Anthony Manuel. Anthony, who are your heroes in basketball as you were growing up and learning this game? Were they big guys or?
Wilt Chamberlain. I bet you $100 it was Wilt.
No, when I was young, I really liked Isaiah Thomas. The way he penetrated and dished the basketball. He was an extremely great ball handler, and I really liked the way he handled the basketball.
What's your role on this team? What do you see as your role on the current Bradley team? What are you supposed to do?
Well, I really have to be the leader out there, get the basketball to people in great situations for them to do things with the basketball. If I'm not playing well, the team is not playing well, and I have to learn that. And once I learn that, I think we'll be a great team.
All right. How about this? I've thought about this a long time, and I often wondered, is there ever an advantage to being 5'10" or 11 like you are instead of 6'7" or 9 like some of the teams and people you play with?
Well, I think so. By me being a little guy, I can handle the basketball pretty much. If I was a big guy, I probably wouldn't be able to handle the basketball. And I can shoot pretty well, extremely well. And if I was a big guy, I probably couldn't shoot from the field as well as I do.
Yeah, but what if you could? What if you could do, both of those things and be 6'7"? Would you be a point guard?
Yeah, I think.
Once and always. Stan, describe Anthony in his progress since you've been here in Peoria.
Well, Frank, I think he's made great progress. There isn't any question. When we came here, he was the heir apparent to Jimmy Less's position. And the great thing about Bradley is they've had great point guards throughout the course of their basketball history, and he fits perfectly for the style of play that we employ. He pushes the basketball up the floor. We think that he's learned tremendously well in a very short period of time, and he still has another year ahead of him. And I think, once he can get the basketball, and we call it, moving up the floor, he has very good vision with the ball. He has the ability to hit people, and throwing a lead pass is not the easiest thing in the world to do, Frank. I think, all of us have seen passes thrown, and if it's behind the particular person, he has a tendency to fumble it, or he can't handle it at that particular point. And Anthony always leads a person well enough so that they have an opportunity to run under the basketball and then make the play. And I think, those are just a few things that he does well, and we put a tremendous amount of pressure on him.
You do by having the ball all the time, and then you have to keep from turning it. What's the toughest thing for you to do in playing a college basketball game?
Well, mentally for me is my concentration. I have to concentrate for 40 minutes of the basketball game, because when I'm not concentrating, I'm not doing things as well. And when I'm not doing things well, we're not playing well.
That's a very, very good way to end this segment on the little man. But before we close and go to a break, we were talking about the little man. Let's talk for a second about a great big guy who just went to the Boston Celtics. His name is Artis Gilmore. You know him well. What do you think of that move?
Well, we had Artis at San Antonio, Frank. I think it's a great move for the Celtics because he's certainly going to shore up a position that they need some help at, and that's backup center. And I think he'll have a tremendous effect in the playoffs and for the Celtics, and possibly assist them in getting that championship that they so dearly want.
Well, thanks to Anthony Manuel. We'll be back in a moment with a very important subject in the world of sports. Stay with us.
This is really getting big. They're coming by the thousands. Down to you, Kurt.
It seems this is the first store to have the new lemon lime slice with the great new taste.
How was it? Fantastic!
Listen, people, the new slice has more lemon lime taste than 7-Up and Sprite. We've got the juice. Who gets the dad? The new lemon lime slice. It's got a great new taste.
Think you'll have enough slice, Max? Maybe. Maybe not. Financial consultant. One who is expert at listening, getting to know a client's needs and concerns. One who advises and educates, tailoring financial services to specific requests and goals. One who then, and only then, executes a client's decision. One who is available at Shearson Lehman Brothers. The serious investor and Shearson Lehman Brothers. Minds over money.
I'm just rolling down the road. Well, now I don't ask much, baby. Easy come and easy go. I'm just headed for the mountains. I'm just looking for a bus. Here.
Hi, I'm Mike Ditka, coach of the Chicago Bears.
And I'm Lee Hall, 25 Sports.
In the game of football, injuries are commonplace.
But in the game of life, injuries and illnesses strike when least expected. Blood donations can make the difference between life and death.
A community without loyal blood donors is like a team without a defense. So make your next play a stop at the Central Illinois Red Cross Blood Drive.
Be a part of the life-saving team.
The President of the United States says drug abuse is the #1 problem facing the country. And like life in general, in almost every sport there are examples of careers and lives lost to drugs and drug abuse. And joining us for this segment is the director of the Chemical Dependency Center at Proctor Community Hospital, Dennis Polt. In a moment we'll talk with Dennis, but Stan, first you saw problems with drugs and drug abuse in the NBA.
Well, we certainly did. I had two of the principals, Michael Ray Richardson at New Jersey and Quentin Daly with the Chicago Bulls. And I think the NBA has the best drug program, certainly in all of professional sports. And yet those people, Dennis, who have problems, certainly have reoccurring problems.
They sure do. If somebody has a problem, you know, of any development at all, it's very hard for them to stop using chemicals. They just can't say no sometimes.
The thing that I found with both of these people, and we would have practice sessions, and they were absolute master liars. They could paint a scene for you. My car broke down. My brother-in-law got put in jail. I've got to go bail him out. And I believed it as a coach. Sure. And until we checked that out and found it wasn't, and they were on a so-called run of cocaine, I just really lost a lot of faith. And yet, when you try and sit down and you talk with these people, they really give you a complete understanding about the drug problem.
Yeah. Is that typical, Dennis, what you just described?
Oh, sure. Yeah. The manipulative quality is part of the disease, and if a person becomes addicted, especially to cocaine, you're going to find lots of lying, conning, that kind of thing going on.
What are the drugs of choice of the young people and the young athletes that use them today?
Usually the drug of choice is going to be alcohol, and I mean that's just pervasive across society, but after that you're going to find marijuana is really a common drug. Athletes themselves might prefer to use stimulants, sometimes something to help them improve their performance, maybe steroids.
Look here and comment on this.
Okay. That's right. In the Chemical Dependency Center, we see that the predominant theme for our young people is multiple drug usage. It's really unusual for a person to have only one drug as a drug of choice. Multiple use is very common.
Well, you know, one of the things I'd be interested in is finding out which ones of those drugs, and you mentioned some, but here is a kind of a percentage.
Right. The majority of the kids coming in are using marijuana. That's their drug of choice. You know, keep in mind they have several drugs that they use, followed up by alcohol, then cocaine, and then there's a smattering of other drugs. But cannabis and alcohol really are the two top drugs.
What about steroids in all of this? Where do they fit? What are they, and do they help performances?
A steroid is a drug that a person will take, and if they're starting to exercise, they'll build muscles very quickly. The trouble is, if a very young person takes steroids, it will stunt their growth. The growth tips in their bones will stop growing. Females, especially females that take steroids, will develop male characteristics. Males will develop female characteristics. Their whole metabolism becomes changed.
Stan, there's drug testing going on at colleges and universities now, including Bradley.
Well, I think it's a good, Frank, because there's so much money involved in it, and I think not only the money, but certainly you're concerned about the individual's health, and you're concerned about their personalities, and you want them to do well, and it's a safeguard. And I think it's good that the NCAA instituted these types of standards, because I saw it in the pros and how drugs can simply destroy an individual's life and a family life, and it's a tragedy.
Dennis, are athletes pressured into taking drugs?
Athletes are like anyone else in our society, especially young athletes. There's a pressure to use drugs. Yeah, they are pressured into it.
What about in professional sports? What about the aspect of having extra money?
Well, anytime you have a situation where you have a high demand to perform, you have the potential, from a drug like cocaine or another stimulant to perform, plus you have just lots and lots of money to spend, more than the average person your age, you're going to look at a combination that's going to lead to drug abuse. There's no question about it.
Dennis, I found, in the NBA that a lot of that, and in talking with the people that were a part of it, it was boredom on their part. They would get back to their hotel room, maybe not go out and use a substance, a chemical substance, in their room, and they were pretty much loners for the most part. It's not done in a party atmosphere. It was done basically in an isolation situation, and then they would get up the next day and just go on. But the thing that we found is that really they're just like frying their brain, much like the ads that you see.
It's frightening, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely astounding that anybody would use a chemical like that and destroy themselves.
Are we gaining or losing in this fight at this current time?
I think we're gaining. I really do. I think we're gaining. A lot more drugs coming in, but people really know now that it's dangerous to use drugs.
And we've spent a lot of time and effort in this country to get that message.
That's right, at every level.
Okay. Dennis Pope, thank you very much for being with us. I hope you'll join us again on this important subject.
Thank you, Frank.
We're going to come back and we're going to take a look at Stan Albeck's lists and questions for the coach and more. Stay with us.
Shearson Lehman Brothers, municipal bonds, where we stand. While other major Wall Street firms have abandoned the municipal bond market, Shearson Lehman Brothers remains strongly committed to it. Because now, more than ever, municipal bonds offer outstanding value for investors seeking safety and tax-free income. Talk with us. Shearson Lehman Brothers, minds over money.
Hi, I just moved in next door. Could I borrow a Diet Pepsi?
Sure.
Be right with you.
When you go all out for taste, the taste to go out for is Diet Pepsi.
You okay in there?
Here's your Diet Pepsi.
Thanks. I hope it wasn't too much trouble.
No trouble at all.
Diet Pepsi, the choice of a new generation.
Up here, you catch him with experience. And when you've got them where you want them, you head for the beer that goes down smooth as a mountain stream. Push.
All those horses do.
What horses?
Head for the mountains of Bush beer.
I'm Joe Pedicino.
I'm Gordon Soley.
Join us Saturdays at midnight on WEEK for the ultimate wrestling program, Pro Wrestling This Week.
Each week, we'll come to you via satellite with the latest wrestling news.
Then we'll get down and dirty with highlights from the week's best matches from major wrestling associations around the world.
You'll hear from your favorite wrestling stars, catch America's only wrestling ratings on television, and even enjoy vintage Nat classics from yesteryear.
Pro Wrestling This Week, Saturdays at midnight right here on WEEK.
One question everyone enjoys asking head basketball coaches, who are the top 10 college basketball teams in the country? And Stan, this is one year that's not a real easy pick.
No, it really isn't, because in almost all of the polls, they have just been topsy-turvy. In my particular top 10, Frank, I really like Oklahoma.
Whoa!
They're 12-0, and right now Billy Tubbs has got them just absolutely rolling over everybody, and he indicated the other day that he was going to try and get 90 and a half.
You don't like those teams you can score, do you?
No, not too much. I think they're averaging about 115 leading the country, and we're third at 99. So, but second, kind of a surprise. John Chaney at Temple has done a great job. He's off to 8-0. I think followed by North Carolina. I think J.R. Reed is just going to have a great year, and so will Carolina. Fourth, Arizona is just seemingly on an unbelievable roll, and I think fifth would have to be Big Ron Cycli in Syracuse.
There's not many schools that have more talent than Syracuse. I mean, the baseline, the backcourt, they're deep.
Well, they really are, and I think Jimmy Boeheim is bringing those people along just exactly the way he wants them, and he's a much shrewder coach than given credit for, believe me.
You think they'll be ready at tournament time with some of these?
I really do. And I think Pittsburgh is going to be there at 9-1, and I like Duke because they've just done a tremendous job down there, and they're sitting there 8-1. Purdue got off to a great start in the Big Ten. They're at 12-1. UNLV got surprised last night at Santa Barbara, but I think, Tark is going to be certainly in that final 16 or the final 8. And then somewhat of a surprise if they're that low, but I think Wyoming, until they're beaten 2 or 3 times, has to rate in my top 10.
Okay. You said Purdue. I might have jacked them up just a little bit higher. They come from a really tough league, and do you think that once again the Big Ten will have a Final Four team?
Oh, I think that it's certainly a strong possibility, but once again, because teams are playing each other now in that top 20, there seems to be a parity, and I think any time that you run into that situation, anybody can knock any other team off. I think.
Are you looking for a chance to be proud of what you do? Do you need some satisfaction? Well, get ready for a brand new and a new tomorrow. A new tomorrow.
Call Lincoln Technical Institute now about your new tomorrow. 1-800-331-1000. That's 1-800-331-1000.
Hi, Hooley here, asking you to help the St. Francis Medical Center, the Salvation Army, and WEEK warm up the winter for many Central Illinois youngsters by providing coats for kids. Simply bring outgrown or seldom worn coats or jackets to any of these locations, and from there, they'll be distributed to families in need by the Salvation Army. All kinds of children's coats in good condition are needed, and it's a great way to make the new year brighter for area children. So please, help by donating today.
When you want to know what's happening in your world,
or what's happening in your home,
meet us right here.
Weekdays.
Sally Jesse Raphael and Donahue, weekday mornings on WEEK.
The Stan Albeck Show, brought to you by Shearson Lehman Brothers and E.F. Hutton, joining together to serve the serious investor. And by Pepsi Cola, the choice of a new generation.
Hi, I'm Frank Bissoni, and welcome to the Stan Albeck Show. One college assistant coach who was scouting Bradley recently turned to me and said, if you're going to let the Bradley Braves run, you've just bought a one-way ticket on the Titanic. The offense of Bradley's is one of the most high-powered in the country, averages nearly 100 points a game. Stan, the offense, you've got clicks. Where did you learn it? Who taught you offense?
Well, Frank, I think you teach what you know as far as basketball or any other profession is concerned. And Forty Anderson, of course, a longtime coach here at Bradley, was probably the first mentor who really pushed the basketball up and down the basketball floor. And I think I honed a lot of that from him. And then, of course, in the pros, I really had the opportunity to even go to more fast break conscious coaches, and really all of that was compiled, I think, in my own personal philosophy.
How much adjustment do you make with the personnel you have, and when it changes, do you change?
Well, I think you have to change. All of us certainly aren't blessed with the top athletes in the country, and anytime that you're not, then you're looking to make those adjustments and compensate for them. But I think, we ask shooters to shoot the basketball. People who can penetrate like Anthony, we ask him to do that and then dish off, and certainly we ask other people to be rebounders and ball handlers, and I think once everybody feels comfortable in a role, then I think you really have an offense that can be explosive.
Coaches are never satisfied. Even if you're getting 100 points a game, you must think there's some weakness with your offense. What would that be?
Well, maybe that we shoot the ball too quickly. I know that it seems like we'll get down the floor and shoot it in 2 or 3 seconds, and then the other team will come up and maybe use 35 or 40 seconds, and they look extremely organized and pass the basketball around, and we're playing defense for that time period. But I really feel that if you can get it an easy shot or an easy layup, why waste time making 20 passes?
There haven't been many weak spots in your offense this year, and as you can see for yourself, we're going to look at the Braves, the Bradley Braves doing their thing. Take a look at this. Kind of symbolizes your philosophy. How tough is it to coach a team to play quick?
Well, Frank, I think it's a lot tougher to teach a team to play fast like we do, because you can immediately, as a coach, just grab your point guard and put a choke chain on him and have him walk the basketball up the floor, and it's a game normally that's going to be played in the 60s.
Yeah, and does it frustrate you to play against a team that wants to play real slow?
Well, not necessarily, because eventually I hope that defensively we're good enough to get the ball back and score. But I think we're still in the entertainment business, and when people are paying top dollar, they should be entertained.
So far, so good. We've seen some great plays, and next up, some great names as we look in action at Stan Albeck's NBA Dream Team. Stay with us.
Shearson Lehman Brothers, municipal bonds, where we stand. While other major Wall Street firms have abandoned the municipal bond market, Shearson Lehman Brothers remains strongly committed to it. Because now, more than ever, municipal bonds offer outstanding value for investors seeking safety and tax-free income. Talk with us. Shearson Lehman Brothers, minds over money.
It's cool.
doing? Good. In fact, I feel like light. Hey. What the? Uh-oh. Oh, I am so. Oh, no. Well, I meant Bud Light.
If you want the less filling light beer with the first name and taste, ask for Bud Light, because everything else...
You all right? Sure, just a little lightheaded.
It's just the light.
Complicated issues aren't black and white, so why pay 50 cents when all you can answer is yes and no? Talk back on Live at 5. I'm Shelley Dankoff.
And I'm Mike Dimmick. Every day on Live at 5, you'll get your chance to be heard on local, national, and global issues.
Talk back on Central Illinois' only television phone-in forum for your views and opinions. Then tune in the next day when we'll present a sampling of your comments on that topic.
Remember, there's no charge to talk back, and you can call all evening long, weekdays on Live at 5.
In basketball, as in any endeavor, some players stand apart from the rest. Special, rare, magical. They play as if they invented the game. Among current NBA players, who would be your starting five out there? Who would be your dream team? Stan, that's always a fun question for me. Who's your first five in the current NBA?
Well, Frank, that's a tough question because there's so many great players up there. You probably ought to go active and inactive, but certainly active. You'd have to begin with Michael Jordan because I think he's probably one of the most explosive players in all of the NBA. Secondly, you'd have to go at a point guard with Magic Johnson. He's really a forward playing point guard, and he has all of the complete ingredients that you want in a point guard. Larry Bird, there isn't any question about this guy. People in the Valley saw him enough, and people in the NBA, especially as opposing coaches, have seen him as enough. Dominique Wilkins, I think, is maybe a surprise, but I think he's really coming into his own. And then at center, the best of all, I think, is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Now, you mean Kareem or Akeem here?
Well, I know you might get a little play, but here's Michael Jordan on a series of breakaways and dunks, and I've never seen anybody have such great body control. He can go in and twist between two people and score, and he just plays the game with so much enthusiasm, and I think that's really the thing at that level. Those players absolutely love the game, and that's a murderous dunk, believe me. Here's a three-point attempt to tie the score in Detroit with no time on the clock, and he double pumped, Frank.
In and out.
There isn't any question, you know, he's going to go into the Hall of Fame, and he absolutely is sensational when it comes to his teammates.
Victory party.
Well, another celebration. The Lakers have had a few of these in the past, and this guy is just a great basketball player. That was James Worthy in the Celtics series, tipping it over to Magic. And here's the one in Boston that absolutely broke the Celtics' heart in the second game. And very few people talk about Magic's sky hook, but he's got one similar to Kareem's. And as Ainge brings down the ball, here's Larry Bird. And he's deceptively quick, Frank. He's got a nice first step. Here he steps through two players and just lays it up with a nice soft touch. And he's always got English. And he's a three-point threat. You have to play the guy inside and outside. And he's so relaxed that the ball just hits nothing but net. In this series here, you see him step under the guy and just underhand it, and he gets the call, score the goal, and go to the line, says Hugh Downs. And here's Dominique. I think, along with Michael Jordan, he has probably some of the greatest skills in the game. He has great extension there on the layup, and he absolutely can just leap over people. Here he comes down the lane, reverse spin, and lays it up. But at the other end, you see Michael Jordan going the other way with a slam just as well, and Dominique's a little stunned, I think, by that, and maybe that one was for him. This guy is just miraculous. He's got that sky hook, and as I said before on our show, rarely does he practice that thing, and he's playing like he's about 28 years old. Here he chases down a long rebound, gets his first three-pointer out in Phoenix, the first one that he's ever had, and centers absolutely love to go down the floor after scoring a three. Here's a dunk by the guy, and he's just a complete player, one of the great passers of all time, and I think, one of the nicest people I've ever been around.
Well, he's done it over the years, and I guess that's why you have him there rather than somebody like Akeem Olajuwon, who is the young guy coming into the
Well, I think he and Moses Malone, I think you have to consider him too, certainly Robert Parrish, but when you're talking about a guy who plays until he's age 40.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it really is unbelievable.
Here's another guy I think is somewhat underrated on some of these all-everybody teams because he plays with Larry Bird, and that's Kevin McHale.
Well, he's going to have his own day, and I think he's continued to fight an injury problem this year, and he got off to a terribly slow start and missed probably 6 or 8 weeks of the season. But as he starts to come around, the Celtics are going to become even a greater threat.
You've been in the NBA over the years and college basketball too. How about some of the guys who aren't playing anymore that were the great names that you were around and you saw in pro basketball?
Well, my backcourt would be West and Robertson. I don't think there's any question about that. That might be an all-timer maybe to compete with Magic and Michael. But certainly at center you'd have to consider Wilt and Bill Russell. And I think up front you've got the Havliceks and Bob Pettitts. The list is just endless as far as how good those people really were.
Well, one of these times we'll get you and we'll try to pin you down and we'll get some old video of some of those guys in the old days. I always thought Russell was the best because his team always won.
Well, I think it's really a misnomer because Chamberlain, in my mind, really was the best center. But, you know, you're going to have that battle as far as those two players in any basketball conversation.
You coached with Wilt Chamberlain. I believe I was out in San Diego. What kind of a guy is he?
Oh, he's a charmer. A great card player.
Really?
I don't play any games with him because the guy will con you into saying, well, I don't know anything about this game, and then all of a sudden your wallet is a lot lighter.
Well, I'll tell you, the one thing you never do is arm wrestle.
No. Hey, let me tell you, when he can pick up a young colt, and he actually did that, I think when he was in the pros.
Literally?
Literally, he picked up a horse, and that will tell you how strong that guy is.
The all-time team, that's good stuff. When we come back, we'll have an important subject with an important guest, so stay with it.
This is really getting big. They're coming by the thousands. Down to you, Kurt.
It seems this is the first store to have the new lemon lime slice with the great new taste.
How was it?
Fantastic!
Listen, people. The new slice has more lemon lime taste than 7-Up and Sprite. We've got the juice.
Who gets the diet?
The new lemon lime slice. It's got a great new taste.
Think you'll have enough slice, Max? Maybe. Maybe not.
Financial consultant. One who is expert at listening, getting to know a client's needs and concerns. One who advises and educates, tailoring financial services to specific requests and goals. One who then, and only then, executes a client's decision. One who is available at Shearson Lehman Brothers. The serious investor and Shearson Lehman Brothers. Minds over money.
It's time for Lifestyles of the Original Party Animal with the Grand Poobah of Partyometry, Bud Light's own Spuds McKenzie, as he's planning tonight's big bash. His fans watch as he tans his way to party elegance, a facial and massage, and Spuds McKenzie is ready to party. And Spuds parties with only Bud Light. He knows everything else is just a light.
Hi, I'm Mike Ditka, coach of the Chicago Bears.
And I'm Lee Hall, 25 Sports.
In the game of football, injuries are commonplace.
But in the game of life, injuries and illnesses strike when least expected. Blood donations can make the difference between life and death.
A community without loyal blood donors is like a team without a defense. So make your next play a stop at the Central Illinois Red Cross Blood Drive.
Be a part of the life-saving team.
There was one basketball player to whom it was always showtime. And we lost him recently. You knew him. You coached against him. Pete Maravich, the famous Pistol.
Well, Frank, it really was a tragic loss because the guy absolutely loved the game. I don't think there's any question about it. And he had an early death. And I think as we look on the screen here, you really see the forerunner of all of the Michael Jordans and razzle-dazzle, the fake behind-the-back pass there, and the finger roll as he went right down the middle against the Lakers. Here he has an off-balance shot, shooting it with his left hand across his body. And here he has good body movement, and here he is in traffic putting the ball off for a layup for a teammate, and the the look away pass. You don't see that much more. And I think, you know, you can see it in his face in the final picture there that he was really drawn.
You really can. One of the widely recognized and outstanding cardiologists in our area is with us, Dr. Gwen Neufeld. And Pete Maravich, Gwen died of a heart problem, and I think it leads us into a subject of stress and stress in the profession of coaching. Is there anything we can do to prevent some of these kinds of problems with heart disease and stress?
Well, you know, I don't know anything about the details about Pete's case, but certainly I think that coaching, everybody would agree, is stressful. In cardiology, we have a type of personality that we call a type A personality or a coronary prone personality. And this has been summarized as saying that this individual would have an excess of aggression, an excess of pace, and an excess of competitiveness. And I think that probably would describe most players and coaches that I've ever been with. And I think that is one of the factors. Stress is definitely a factor in heart disease.
Doctor, in the NBA, 20 of the 23 coaches have hypertension, and I was one of them up there, and I have it, and I take medication for it. But in talking to the coaches, a lot of them run. John McLeod runs, maybe 6-7 miles a day at Dallas, and a guy like Pat Riley gets relief through acupuncture, and it's just absolutely amazing. Jack Ramsey is a triathlon guy at age 60, and they try to combat it there. But I think, the big thing that most of them run up against is like a burnout. You travel 75,000 air miles and you play 4 days a week, and is there anything that you can do? I mean, for me, I know I probably don't exercise as much as I should, but should I watch my diet?
Oh, with high blood pressure, which is one of the risk factors also for heart disease, we know that a lot of the individuals who have this have a problem with excess hormones that are brought on by stress. And so once again, factors that cause stress in that individual's life are the factors that we would like to, attack if we could. There are a lot of techniques that have been developed. You mentioned acupuncture. Some people have used that. There are relaxation and meditation techniques that have been used, but before you can have one of those treatments, you have to know you have the problem. And so a lot of people are out there and don't even know they have high blood pressure, and to start with, they need to have the blood pressure checked. You mentioned diet. The major factor in the diet is sodium and weight. Alcohol also can elevate the person's
Let me
blood
ask
pressure.
you something, Doctor, right here. I drink about 6 Diet Pepsis, okay, and there's enough caffeine in those, I know. But I go home and I'm hyper really after the game, and we all try to wind down some way. And can caffeine, bring about any problems as long, related to hypertension?
The fact that people have always implicated caffeine as a problem with heart disease or high blood pressure, I'm not aware of any proof that it's really a factor in any long-range study. Certainly, if you drink a lot of caffeine temporarily, it'll elevate your blood pressure, but we're really much more concerned about blood pressure that stays elevated, not just goes up when you have stress.
What about, you mentioned risk factors, and you said stress is a risk factor, and some of the other things, diet. What are the things that we can look at for any of us to see if we're going to have a problem with heart disease or that sort of thing, or we're prone to that kind of thing?
Well, there's some risk factors we can't control, and so we don't waste a lot of time talking about them. That's basically our heredity and whether or not we're males, with males much more likely to have a problem than women. The ones that we do have more control over are high blood pressure, diabetes, the cholesterol, both in the diet and the cholesterol in the blood, and the lack of exercise, or whether a person exercises regularly.
In the NBA, when they have their physicals, all of the players have to have all of those particular tests, and I think when we went through them, I took all of those tests, and normally I would walk about 4 miles every day prior to that test, and I could go in and my blood pressure would be like 140/90, okay? And during the season, our team doctor would take it in the locker room, and it would get as high as 160 over like 105, and before a game.
That's very interesting, and there have been some people now that have been looking at blood pressure over just a day, not just what is it when you relax sitting down in the doctor's office. And there are monitors that you can wear for a 24-hour period, and blood pressure will vary widely from time to time. But the other factor there is that it seems like there's two ways that people respond. Either they're what we call a hot responder, and when they're under stress, their blood pressure and heart rates jump up, or they're what we call a cold responder. And they can be under the same amount of stress, look just as upset or angry, the veins sticking out in their neck, and their blood pressure is normal.
Wow. Dr. Neufeld, thanks a million for being with us. We really appreciate the insights. When we come back, we're going to have the fans take their chance to ask Stan. So stay with us.
Wow. Shearson Lehman Brothers, municipal bonds, where we stand. While other major Wall Street firms have abandoned the municipal bond market, Shearson Lehman Brothers remains strongly committed to it. Because now, more than ever, municipal bonds offer outstanding value for investors seeking safety and tax-free income. Talk with us. Shearson Lehman Brothers, minds over money.
Hi, I just moved in next door. Could I borrow a Diet Pepsi?
Sure.
Be right with you. When you go all out for taste, the taste to go out for is Diet Pepsi.
You okay in there?
Here's your Diet Pepsi.
Thanks. I hope it wasn't too much trouble.
No trouble at all.
Diet Pepsi, the choice of a new generation.
There's a greatness of the heart. Reach it higher, 'cause you wanna do your part. Give your best, that's all that matters. As you're climbing up that ladder, we know what matters. Press onward, 'cause one day you'll break through. You're a winner if it's right in all you do. Give your best, that's all that matters. As you're climbing up that ladder, we know what matters.
As often as possible, we like to give our viewers the opportunity to quiz the coach. So, Stan, get ready. Here's our first question we have this week from our fans. Take a look.
I'm Art Setterlund. I'm the official scorer from Peoria. And Stan, my question is, am I going to need more pencils to keep track of Hersey Hawkins this year?
That's a great question, Art, and I hope that you need about 10 sets, believe me, because I think Hersey's just going to have an absolutely fantastic year. And I think he's right on pace at about 38 or 39 points. And if he can keep that pace, Frank, he would leapfrog Larry Bird as far as the top Valley scorer. And I think anytime that you do that, you've really done something.
We're going to put that on the graphic one of these weeks and show people just as the race goes on. But one question I would have about Hersey is this. Media inquiries, the pressure that not only being an All-American, but all of the crush of what's going on the outside of the court.
Well, he's really busy. There isn't any question. Sports Illustrated is in, and New York Times has been on campus, and I think he's starting to get the visibility that he is entitled to, and yet thus far it hasn't distracted from his play.
Let's see if we have one more question for Stan Albeck on this week's show. Let's take a look.
My name's Annette Beal. I'm a Bradley University cheerleader, and I'm from Peoria. And I would like to know, Stan, how you have adjusted to the college playing and the recruiting since you've been back in it.
I know that girl, Frank. I see her often. But I think, the adjustment has been very much normal for me coming back, and it's a much slower pace, especially from the playing standpoint, after almost 100 games. And as far as the recruiting, we got out this fall, and for the first time, we're extremely well received in the homes and our home visitations. And I think signing 4 players in the fall really gave us a break. We think all four can play. And on top of that, we're certainly in the mainstream as far as a lot of good players out there, and hopefully we'll sign a ton of those in the spring.
We're going to talk to you one of these times about JC and recruiting, but let's go right now to one more question for Stan Albeck from the fan.
Jerry Norgard, season ticket holder from Peoria, Bradley fan. I'd like to know what Albeck's going to do to spread the scoring around. Once the Valley season starts, you can't rely on one or two players.
Well, that's a good question. It really is, and I think it's one that we've talked about with the team, and the team is made aware of the fact that we've got to have double figures from more people than just Anthony and Hawk.
You bet. Well, Stan, thanks, and thanks to the fans for that. And our time's up for another week. So for our sponsors, Pepsi-Cola and Shearson Lehman Brothers, for our guest, Dr. Gwen Neufeld, and for Stan Albeck, this is Frank Bissoni. Thanks for joining us, and have a great week.
Ready? 1, 2,